welcome everyone to the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I am joined by the son of a sailor himself, our director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, you are back from a trip to Greenville. How is the South Carolinian affiliate of the Red Sox these days? How are things in one of my favorite cities to visit? How was your trip spending a week at the High A affiliate?
It was great. I mean, love going to Greenville. It's always fun down there. The people are super nice. You know,
Yep.
You always meet some really cool people when you're down there, and you get to see some good baseball at a really fun park that is walking distance from downtown, which is just great. It's a great walking area, which I really enjoy. And yeah, it was fun getting to see the Drive as they get ready for the playoffs, which is, they haven't had that in a while. I think 2017 was the last time they were in the playoffs.
Was it really?
So, yeah, I think so. So it's pretty cool that they're going to have some late September baseball, I guess we call it.
Mid
Mid to
September,
late September baseball.
Because the regular season for A-ball ends on the 10th.
It ends this week, yeah.
So
and then
it's next week.
Then playoffs start. It's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I believe, for playoffs, or Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I can't remember exactly. It's one of those.
It's Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
So
certain.
It's
and
also
if they
weird.
Win, they have a day off and then they start on Sunday or something.
No, they wait. I think it waits till the following week. I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
But it's a very weird schedule because, and it doesn't seem very efficient because they have to go the Drive or the home team in all playoff series potentially, because it alternates between one season it's the North, one season it's the South team, and this year it's the Drive division is the home team for the second round, and since they won the first half, I guess they're the home team for the first round too. And so they have to like go somewhere for one game and then come back, except they still don't know where that is yet, and it's just logistically it doesn't sound very fun.
So they're so they're on the road on Tuesday. Then they're home for Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
right, like you
and
said. If they win, they do wait till Tuesday. You're right.
Yeah, and then it's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday again, and they're home Thursday, Friday again. But that one's a nightmare because you're playing against the Northern Division champion, which they could have to go all the way up to like New York.
Actually, no, that's not right. I'm looking at their schedule. It says championship round game 2 would be Tuesday and 3 would be Wednesday.
Okay,
so they are on the road on Sunday if they win their.
So they do Sunday,
series.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, like, it's just a weird schedule.
It's very weird.
And they could have to, they could play in Greenville, then have to fly up to, New York or somewhere for a game and then come back. It's just a lot of traveling, but I guess that's, good problems to have if they make it that far.
And that's why they get that day off on either side, too.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who they end up playing in the playoffs and then where it goes from there. But great, Greenville is great. I would highly recommend if you're interested in getting out to a Red Sox affiliate outside of the Northeast, I would definitely go check out Greenville. It's a beautiful city and there's a lot of fun stuff to do there. And then obviously it's a very cool ballpark to experience a game at.
We've talked about the fact that the Red Sox have good affiliate locations for the most part. I mean, Portland is Portland. Like
Portland's great.
Greenville's solid. Worcester is close to Boston.
Yeah, and the park is great.
And the park is great.
And
Salem, if you're into outdoor
stuff. Yeah, hiking. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful view in Salem. The ballpark is what it is.
It's an old municipal ballpark.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is what it is.
But the views are great, and there's good hiking, and downtown Salem's actually pretty fun. There's some nice restaurants and stuff down there too. So
that's
good. it's a good grouping to have, and it seems like obviously they're locked in, so that's what's going to be for the foreseeable future.
Yep. So at any rate, we're going to talk about what Ian saw down in Greenville. We're going to talk about the latest transactions, news, etc. in the system. Just thought of another one I need to add to the list in terms of injury news. And yes, we're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about promotions. We're going to talk about guys in Boston. We're going to talk about guys in Portland. We're going to talk about guys in Worcester, Salem, everywhere, up and down the system. And of course, we'll get to your emails. If you want to email us, hit us up at podcast.com. Podcast at SoxProspects.com is the email, not podcast.com. I don't know what that is. Podcast at SoxProspects.com, because we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. And of course, if you want to support us, there's a few ways you can do that. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell someone when you're commiserating about Jimmy Buffett and or Steve Harwell from Smash Mouth. I guess not completely disparate. musicians who we lost recently, but it's just
Wait,
weird to be
Feely what?
disparate, different. They're
Different.
not
Okay.
different.
I thought you said something else. I was like,
Desperate.
wait, yeah, that's what I
No,
thought you
not
said. I was like,
desperate.
geez,
Disparate.
that's
Disparate music genres, but they're not really. I mean, Smash Mouth had kind of a like chill vibe to them. But
Yeah.
it was weird being at the beach when Jimmy Buffett died. It just kind of was a strange thing to kind of be, thinking about margaritas and whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah. But at any rate, yeah, when you're talking to someone about that, just say, hey, by the way, do you like podcasts? Here's one for you. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, not Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen to the show. Rate and review us there. We'd appreciate it. And you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects by pledging a certain amount per episode and getting some neat perks. So yeah, at this point, you all know how Patreon works. Go check it out. Let's dive in, Ian. Let's start with the news before we dig in really deep on Greenville. And I guess maybe the place to start this episode is at the top in Boston with when we recorded last time, Wheeler Abreu had been called up. David Hamilton was also up. And since then, Hamilton has been sent back to AAA, and the Red Sox have called up Ceddanne Rafaela. I'm trying to think of what the counter move even was. Was he? No, I guess because he wasn't the September call-ups. The September call-ups were Brandon Walter and Emmanuel Valdez.
No, it was Pablo Reyes.
Was it when Reyes went on the IL, they called up Rafaela? So what was
it was when Reyes went on the IL and Abreu went on the paternity list.
Abreu went on the paternity list.
They called up Hamilton and
they called up Hamilton and Abreu when Reyes went on the IL.
No.
They came up at the same time, I swear to you.
No, I'm looking at it right now. What happened is when Reyes got placed on the IL and Abreu got placed on the paternity list on the same day.
Okay.
Abreu came up for Duran when Duran was
for Duran. That's right. He's gone because he's on the 60.
Yeah, and that hasn't happened. That happened. I think that happened after we last recorded, but he got hurt climbing the outfield wall in New York.
Yeah,
he's out for the year. Which I mean, it's a tough break. There's nothing like you can't.
Well, it happened before the last episode because we talked about Abreu.
You can't fault the effort. It's just sometimes injuries happen. And it sucks because Duran obviously was having a really encouraging season. So
agreed.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, it was then Reyes got hurt and Abreu got placed on the paternity list and Chris Murphy got optioned. And that's when because he was up there for the COVID injury or COVID list of Brennan Bernardino. They brought up Kyle Bearclaw, Ceddanne Rafaela, and David Hamilton. And
got it.
Rafaela coming up is the big one, was the interesting one because that was only 3 days before September 1st. And it was like, oh, is he going to stay up? Like, what are they going to do? And then they sent down David Hamilton and when Abreu came back and kept Rafaela up there. And so now,
then Valdez came up.
And then, so we're getting the full Ceddanne Rafaela experience right now. And
but are we though? That's the problem.
I know. It's a
really
weird, it's a really weird situation because
yeah,
obviously they're still in the wild card race. I think they have about a 10% chance or something.
Yeah. They were 4.5 back before they lost. They're 5 back now, I presume.
Yeah, they are. And they had I think it was about a 10% chance. And so it's like tough. Do you want to play the young guys or do you keep playing your veterans and hope that, you can get that small chance at a wild card berth? And I think they're kind of like towing the line of doing a little of both right now. And it's kind of by necessity because with Verdugo hurt.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a lot of options, but I just think it is interesting that they're basically running Ceddanne Rafaela as the backup shortstop right now.
Yeah.
And he played second base tonight. Granted, late innings when they were pinch hitting for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean he's up there and it seems like they're pretty committed to integrating him into the lineup in a reasonably decent role. He's not playing every day yet, but he's getting his at bats. He's got 4 hits already this season, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's hitting the ball, and I think you put it best when he got his first at bat and first pitch swung at a breaking ball.
Oh yeah, I mean he's doing exactly what we expected. I give him credit; he's good at hitting pitches that he probably shouldn't swing at. But we're seeing the same thing. Like there was a great at bat in I think it was last night's game where he actually had 2 hits last night or maybe 3, and like some of them were like just really weird seeing eye ground balls that somehow got through the infield and things like that. But he had one at bat where he took 2 like tough pitches. It was a cutter and a breaking ball or sweeper, I think, from Zach Eflin. And down and away breaking balls is a pitch he's really struggled with in the minors. And he took them. And this was great. There were check swings. He was lunging a little bit, but he didn't go. So it's fine. And so that was really encouraging. And he worked himself into a 3-1 count. And then he swung at a pitch that hit him. It was like, and he ended up striking out on the next pitch. And it's like, that's what you're going to get with Rafael. You know what I mean? You kind of just you have to get used to it. You have to know what you're getting into with him right now. And it's the swing decisions are going to be a little annoying, but he's athletic. He can defend. And when he makes contact, he has a knack for finding open space. And when he gets on base, and he can, he's got the speed to turn that into a double. And we saw the base running is a little iffy. I think he got doubled off after his first hit.
Yep.
And he's been caught stealing and stuff. And that's kind of what we talked about. The instincts aren't great on the bases, but there's still a lot to like there. And I've been encouraged by what I've seen, even though he's, struck out a decent amount and still expanding. He's still getting on base and getting hits. And at the end of the day, that's the name of the game.
Yep. 6 strikeouts and no walks and 15 plate appearances.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Like he's not. Yeah. He ran like what, a 4% walk, 5% walk rate in AAA. He's not going to run more than like a 2 or 3% walk rate. I would suspect.
He's hitting 467, but with a robust 778 average on balls in play.
Yeah,
that is not sustainable, folks.
No. So we'll see. I'm interested to see what happens when Reyes comes back. If he does, we don't know obviously how long his injury is, what they do. But I think it. If you told me, with Story limited, if I had to pick someone to be on the roster as the backup shortstop, it would definitely be him over David Hamilton. I'd much rather throw him out there defensively.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, because I think the thing is that before Reyes got hurt, he was basically the starting second baseman. He had more or less claimed that gig.
Yeah,
over Luis Urias.
Well, I mean, he was raking.
Yeah, he was playing.
He was hitting over 300. Yeah.
So now with him out, Luis Urias becomes kind of the starting second baseman, but that's why, like, with Rafaela there, you can bring up Valdez to be the guy who plays second, like a platoon second base.
They're basically platooning Urias and Valdez right now, second, which is good because Valdez should never face a lefty. We saw yesterday, homers off a righty. Like, he can still hit righties really well. Defense is rough, but I think he's gotten a little good, but like, he should never face a lefty. That's the biggest thing. And with Urias there, that's actually a pretty decent platoon partnership right there.
Well, and you've got Rafaela there for late inning defense.
Well, that's what I was to say. The versatility is if they think Rafaela is a good enough defender at second, even though he's barely played there, which wouldn't surprise me if he is, given he's one of those just like naturally gifted defenders. It gives you a ton of versatility because they can do what they did today, where I think they pinch hit Ref Snyder for Valdez and then Rafaela for Abreu against Colin Poche, who's a tough lefty.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Rafaela doubled off him. And then they just switched it, and Ref Snyder went to center and Rafaela went to second. So it gives you some flexibility. And yeah, it's exciting to see Rafael up there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, it's fun to see someone who has, what he signed for, 10K maybe, and not a lot of money.
He might have been 30.
He might have been 30. Okay. It's just cool to see someone who, who's come all the way through 10. The system.
10.
Is it 10? Right. I thought it was 10. Yeah.
Dennis Newman.
Homegrown player, come all the way through the system, really like taking major strides every year. And now to see him in the major leagues is pretty cool.
It's funny when you have guys like, Reed Grignani's legacy of being drafted by the Red Sox is that he goes on to work for the team as a scout and sign like Brandon Walter and Noah Song. And like, Dennis Newman's legacy with the Red Sox is going to be that they signed him. He made it to like A ball.
I think I saw Dennis Newman in Lowell, I think, like way back.
Oh, I'm sure you did. Yeah. He was on like Team Netherlands in the World Baseball Classic.
I think he might have been the Lowell closer one year.
He was. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. No question. Yeah, I absolutely remember that. So yeah, we'll see what they do with these guys. I would like to see them get innings, and because I think the thing is, I don't think that you're. It's you always have that dichotomy of like, do you try and win or do you play the kids? And like you said, I was going to say the same thing. I don't think there's really much of a difference right now. No. Maybe you don't play them every single day, but like getting Valdez, Abreu, and Rafaela in the lineup is trying to win right now.
Well, especially because it also, the questions for next year, like I think we talked about a decent amount, the majority of the big league roster is pretty set for next year. The questions are going to be, is an outfield spot made available, whether it be via trade or whatever, like what happens with Adam Duvall? Like there's room for some combination of Abreu, Rafaela, and Valdez potentially to claim spots on the major league roster for next season. So this is more like somewhat of a tryout for them too, to see, can they fill that role? Like, can Valdez be, a platoon pinch hitter, like second baseman? Can Abreu play center field at a high enough level defensively to be the bench, to be a reserve center fielder, or maybe even, play some right field if they end up moving Verdugo? Can Rafaela, be that super utility guy who plays, 4 or 5 games a week between second, short, and center? Like there's a lot of stake for those guys. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch all the way through the end of the season because of that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's with the versatility that guys like Rafael have too, there's a lot of ways you can deploy them.
Also, Tristan Casas breaks. Can we just say that? Like,
yeah, it's, it's
patience
kind of
is a virtue. That's all I'll say on Tristan Casas.
I mean, how long did we say it? Like we told y'all.
It's, you got to give guys time. And I mean, he's example number 1, because in the second half of the season, I think it's like him, Mookie Betts, and Julio Rodriguez or something are the top 3 hitters in baseball. It's obscene what he's doing.
And look, I mean, think about how often we tell you all to chill on guys. When we don't tell you to chill on a guy, there's a reason, right? Like there's when we're not kind of making sure we're being measured with expectations and stuff like that. Like it's our 20th anniversary, people. We kind of know what we're doing, is what we're trying to say. So I'm just going to
a little. We're still learning though, but we're getting better.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we get to drink next year. So, all right, lower in the minors. Do you want to just go level by level, maybe, Ian? Because there's a couple weeks worth of or do we just start with the headliners? Let's just start with the headliners.
Let's just do the headliners.
Yeah, because you saw, thank goodness, because we were joking about how the Red Sox were going to promote Kyle Teal before you got to Greenville. Luckily, they did not. However, they
definitely listened to us, right? We're just going to assume that that's why they waited. Yeah,
that's why they wait. I mean, we know they listen, but that's certainly why they waited as well. They waited until you left to send Kyle Teal and Roman Anthony on your.
I was about to say Kyle Teal didn't go alone.
Yeah, he went up with Roman Anthony, which is, I mean, if that's one of the ones that's like, if you had told me at the beginning of the season, like I would not have believed you that Roman Anthony would get promoted to Portland. Now,
no, I mean, when was the last time they promoted? He's still 19.
He's still 19 and he's in his first full pro season. Like,
right.
They don't do that.
Crazy. Yeah.
Like honestly, Kyle Teal as a top half of the first round college bat.
That's what I was saying. He's super polished. Like we'll get into it when we talk about it.
Makes sense going to Portland.
I'm not surprised.
Even like not even taking into account the thing we talked about last week of we all have to recalibrate our radars, our expectations of what the levels are.
You've seen teams do what the Red Sox have done with Teal this year before.
Yes.
Like the Red Sox haven't. The Red Sox haven't really done it, but other teams have. Like that's not that surprising.
Put it this way: if you had told me the day after the draft that Kyle Teal would be in Portland at the end of the year, before the end of the year. And if you had told me on opening day that Roman Anthony would be in Portland at the end of the year, I would have acted much, much, much more surprised about the Roman Anthony.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, Roman Anthony's 19. Other than Jackson Holiday, who is an alien.
Yeah. Who I saw in Bowie, who is he's going to be a monster.
Unbelievable
player. Like, it's so dumb.
It's incredible how good he's going to be. And
that team, man. It's a good time to be an Orioles fan.
He looks like he's like 12. Like, did you see that? Did you see that story that he couldn't get a hotel because apparently like Virginia has a law that you have to be 21 or something to rent a hotel.
Awesome.
And so he was trying to because he's in AAA now, and
the guy Norfolk.
He had to talk his way into getting a hotel because they were like, you're not old enough. And it's like, well, yeah, he looks like he's 12. But anyway, Roman Anthony in AA it's something. I mean, he was really good in Greenville, but
it's funny because you came in at the end of him having a really rough stretch.
Yeah.
Although I have theories about it based on an interview Brian Abraham did with Sean McAdam last week. But he got hot for you. He was our player of the week for that week. And got the promotion.
He did some really good stuff that series that we'll talk about in a little bit.
So it's aggressive.
I mean, it's just the Portland team right now is ridiculous. And that's I think we have to talk about the other big news today is Marcel Meyer's done for the season.
Exactly. That was what I was referring to.
Yeah, that was announced by Ian Brown via Brian Abraham. Today.
Well, vice versa, but yeah.
Well, yeah, Brian Abraham announced it in an Ian Brown interview.
He gave a quote to Ian Brown.
Yes. But anyway, not that surprising. There's 2 weeks left in the regular season.
Why rush him?
And there's no point in rushing him. You want him to have a normal off season. But it's just crazy. You take Meyer out, you take Brainer Bonacy, who's on the what list?
Yeah. Well,
he's on a list and not playing right
He's
now.
inactive, I think is the way I would put it. The transaction on MILB.com says like he got added to the reserve list. That doesn't make any sense because that would be like saying a player in the major league roster got put on the 40-man roster. Like,
Yeah, that's weird.
it doesn't make sense. He's either on the restricted list or maybe they clicked the wrong box. It's supposed to be restricted list
Or
temporarily
injured list.
inactive, development.
Yeah.
Those are all lists that exist. The reserve list is just like a thing that's you're on when you're on a team.
Yeah.
So at any rate, he has been deactivated for reasons we do not know.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't want to speculate beyond that, but we'll see.
But it's interesting.
If we ever find out.
I mean, you still look and that team is loaded. Like you got
Yeah.
Teal behind the plate, you've got Nick York, you got Blaze Jordan, you got Chase Mydroth,
Top
you
two
got
catchers in
Roman
the system.
Anthony, Nathan Hickey's still there. Corey Rozier's had a really good year. Like it's a really good team, and we'll see if they can push for the playoffs. I think they're 4 games out or something right now.
Is it only 4? Is that what it's down to?
It might be 5. I don't know. It's something around that. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see catch Portland hopefully next week and kind of see that group kind of playing together. And I do like it in this regard, and that a lot of these guys are going to start in Portland next year. So
They're
I kind of like
7 back.
Oh wow, they've
they're 6 back of Binghamton, which is the one that matters. But
got it.
And tied with Reading.
Okay. So these guys, a lot of them are going to start in Portland next year. So I think it's a good, get them acclimated up there, get them used to playing together.
That's what
at the level they're going to start. But I do, on the other hand, do feel pretty bad for Greenville. Like as we talked about earlier, they're in the playoffs and they just lost their 2 best players.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, they're going to have
really
to be
tough
led.
Break.
They're going to have to be led by like Edinson Paulino and Alan Castro at the plate, and beyond that,
I mean, they still have a chance, but it's just it's tough.
A fairly thin.
Anthony was hitting first, and Teal was hitting second for them.
Yep,
like that tells you a lot, and they're both up the middle guys. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, and it's one of those where it's like Mikey Romero's on the injured list, which doesn't help. Cutter Coffee is hurt and hasn't been playing. He's also been struggling like crazy.
He got scratched one of the days I was in Greenville. He was in the lineup, and then
he hasn't played since.
Campbell came up and hit for him, and he never. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And should we talk about the counter move to Worcester?
The counter move, yeah. So, other transactions that have happened. So, Grant Gambrell. We alluded last episode to the fact that a Portland starter was probably going to go to Worcester just based on the numbers. That was Grant Gambrell. Again,
he's been really good since he got to Worcester, hasn't he?
He has. He's been pretty good there. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I saw him in Bowie. Like you've seen him play. You've seen him this year too. Like
he's nice. It's a good little arm.
Yeah. It's probably a reliever in the majors, but like maybe he gets a spot starter too. He's very like Case and Gabbard-ish, maybe. Like I'm not making a comp in terms of stuff, but just in terms of like maybe he'll get like a spot starter too, but he's not a guy that I'm giving a long-term rotation spot to. Maybe he
he seems he's more of like a bulk reliever to me. But yeah. It's nice to see him succeeding at the AAA level.
Yep. And then the other guy that went up is the one that Alex Spear thinks you have a prospect crush on, and Luis Guerrero. Yeah, I mean, he'd actually been particularly filthy of late. He's had a tremendous year in Portland. He's definitely going to be a SoxProspects.com all-star in the bullpen. I think. I can't imagine he's not.
I was looking at
particularly filthy lately.
It's interesting. I was first off, his MILB list is on the disabled. Oh, a different Luis Guerrero. Never mind. I got caught out by the other one. But no, what I was gonna say is I was actually looking at his splits to see kind of what prompted or what preempted this promotion.
He's been nasty lately.
And yeah, if you take it since August, since August 1st, he is Baseball Reference loads. The biggest thing is he's not walking anyone. I think he has 2 walks in that span.
He cut way down on the walks.
And that was kind of the biggest issue. It was the twofold thing. He was not throwing strikes enough, and his splitter wasn't really missing bats. And I think he has 18 strikeouts in 10 innings in that time too.
That
something along
right.
those lines.
And like 2 walks.
13 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 19 strikeouts. Opponents are hitting 106, 143, 192 in that span.
All right.
He's given up 1 double and 4 singles and the most encouraging thing too, 22% swinging strike rate.
Yeah.
So that's really good stuff. Nice. And that's that's good. It's good to see that he seems to have kind of found his level, and it's a well-deserved promotion in my opinion.
100%, 100%. It went from that Portland Bulls bullpen was
Yeah, I mean
disgusting.
they were just throwing a bunch of hard throws. It's good, and we'll get to it with Greenville. Greenville is the same thing. Greenville has a bunch of guys at the end of the game who can throw really hard now, and that's good to see because I think we talked about in the last episode that graphic where the Red Sox have like 4 guys throw above 99 this season, or sorry, 4 pitches above 99 the entire season.
Yeah.
They just
The
don't have a
Boston
lot of
Red
hard,
Sox,
they don't have
yeah.
a lot of hard throwers in the bullpen right now in the major league level, and as we're seeing with the top teams, you need a couple of those guys because
Yeah.
the margin for error is just so much bigger with them. You know, if Luis Guerrero or, you know, Felix Sapedo, if you're throwing 98, 99 and you miss your location, you can get away with it a lot more than someone like John Schreiber can throwing 91.
Yep, exactly.
So
100%.
yeah, it's encouraging to see that development of those bullpen arms with good velocity.
Definitely. Was there a different counter move you were referring to? Because
No, I was talking about Guerrero.
Okay.
I was thinking about Guerrero. Yeah.
Got it. Moving up from Salem to Greenville, the big one was Yordani Monegro, who you got to see as a result. So not only did they keep Teal there, they added to the rotation for you.
Yeah, I got to see his debut
in Greenville. Nice. Yeah. So we'll talk plenty about him, but you know, I'm trying to think as far like low minors, probably biggest jumper of any pitching prospect this year. Cause like Perales, Gonzalez, Alma Rodriguez, Cruz are all kind of like, they're already kind of in that grouping. Whereas Monegro has kind of pitched his way into the top 30 from being like not even a thought entering the year. So a big jump for him. I think that's really it for the guys up to Greenville because everything else had happened since last time. They had a bunch of guys on like the dev list that got activated as counter moves. Romero and Coffey were already up. And then in Salem, they basically had an FCL jailbreak. They added Matt Duffy, Connolly early, and Zach Fogel on the mound, and Stanley Tucker in the outfield.
Because the FCL season ended.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we talked about the FCL season ending on the last episode, but for those who did not listen, good point. They also activated Hayden Mullins off the injured list, coming back for Tommy John surgery, so he's back in the rotation. It's you know, it's funny just looking at that Salem roster. You know, I don't even know that I would call it the modern Lowell. Like,
no, it's like a hybrid Lowell Penn.
It's like advanced
FCL.
rookie ball. Yeah, it's advanced rookie ball. It's not. It's like the Appalachian League, not even like New York Penn League.
Yeah.
I talked to someone recently who called it Complex Plus, which I thought was a good way to put it. Like it's advanced complex.
Yeah,
basically.
And I think one thing I just wanted to caution is the Salem guys' numbers, that they're not going to be very good. Most likely, don't worry about it. Like, remember Roman Anthony hit 230 in Salem and they promoted him to Greenville, and now he's in Portland.
Yeah.
Salem numbers are tough, especially for guys like Yohan Fran Garcia, Nathan Utan, Antonio Anderson,
Marvin.
Marvin, yeah. But like those guys, they're not used to hitting in like that, so don't worry about their numbers. Like,
if you
they're probably going to hit around 200.
Yeah, if you're not physical at that level, like your power numbers are going to just be nothing.
Especially in that park, which just destroys power. So I was explaining to a scout. It was funny. Recently, we were talking about Roman Anthony, and he was looking at his numbers. He's like, what happened in Salem? Like, why did he get promoted? I was like, you've never been to Salem, have you? He was like, nope. I was like, well, there's a reason no one hits home runs there, because it's just one of those ballparks.
It's cavernous, huge,
it's
tall
huge
walls.
And if you're not a physical, strong guy, and Anthony is that, but like guys like Alcantara are not, you don't have a chance to drive the ball there. So
and the thing is, you know, if you've been following the system for a while, it was less of a problem when it was a high A ballpark. Because you had
you had an extra year.
You
had an extra year or two development.
Extra year of development, both baseball skills wise and physical development. You know, but I remember when like Bobby Dahlbeck was hitting all of the home runs. There was like, no, you don't understand how hard it is to do what he is doing in this ballpark. So that's now that it is a low A, not only a low A affiliate, a low A post short season ball affiliate. You get guys there who are just out of the complex who just aren't able to hit home runs in that park. So, and hit doubles and et cetera. So take offensive numbers there with a pretty big grain of salt. Don't be freaked out by like the Garcia and Alcantara numbers. They're brutal. They're like sub-Mendoza line, but
Oh, they're all hitting around 200. I just looked today. Like
are they
Utan had 3 hits.
one of them was
Utan,
down to like 125 or something.
Utan, Garcia, and Alcantar have all had a couple hits, and Anderson too.
Well, there you go.
They're all above 200 except for Anderson, who's like 185 now. But I mean, I think it's telling too. Like when we talk about Salem, do you remember how many home runs Rafael Devers hit there in a full season? Basically, 128 games.
Well, so the thing is he started awful because that was
Yeah.
back when he would have awful starts to the year, and everyone would be like, "What's wrong with him?" And we'd say, "Don't
Yeah.
worry about it," and then he would get hot. 12,
11. Yeah.
nice.
Like, and Rafael Devers has what, 70 raw, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Like, by the way, he stole 18 bases that season. Remember when we talk about minor league stolen base numbers? Yep. Rafael Devers had 18 steals in high A.
That's awesome.
I could, that was.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's the only time in his career he's ever been more than 8. His career high in the MLB in his 6 years in the majors, 7 years in the majors.
Yeah.
Can you guess how many he has?
In the majors?
Yeah.
9.
No, more than that. 27.
Oh,
well,
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
27.
Because
he had 3 in 2017, 5 in 18, 8 in 19, 0 in 20, 5 in 21, 3 in 22, and 3 again this year.
All right.
So, but it's just funny. Seeing the 18 jumped off the page more so than the 11 home runs did, honestly.
Awesome. Love to see it.
Yeah.
Other moves.
Should we just say Salem? I don't think can make the playoffs, right?
Salem, are they actually officially
I'm not
eliminated?
sure, but I know they were not close. They were in trouble.
Here. We talked about it last episode. They were in trouble. Yeah, they are in last place in their division. No, they've officially been eliminated. Because the season ends this week.
Yeah. And then what about Worcester? What's the update on them?
Worcester it's a cluster because
it's the second half, right? And they're fighting for the
second half.
title.
They are 2.5 back in their division, but like
did the team who won
the first half? It was Norfolk.
Norfolk is Norfolk in first right now or no?
No, it's Durham in first. Lehigh Valley is a game back. Buffalo is 2 games back. Worcester is 2.5 back. Jacksonville is 3 back. Norfolk is 4 back, but whatever.
But there's still 2.5 weeks
Scranton
left in the
is 4.5 back, and all of those teams have elimination numbers in the double digits still.
Yeah, because there's still 2.5 weeks left. So
yeah, so there's a lot of baseball to be played there. So Worcester, I mean, get Teal to Worcester at this point. Like,
well, I mean, we'll probably talk about
Portland is 6 back there. They've got an elimination number of 4. So
we'll probably talk about it on a future episode, though. I do wonder if Teal to Portland does kind of hint that he might be an AFL candidate.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we might find out. Actually, we could probably talk about it real quick because we might find out before the next episode.
Because last year was released the 14th or the 16th. 16th. So
I think
James a week on basically like Saturday or Friday.
Yeah. I mean, based on we mentioned the Meyer thing, but based on the wording of it, like he just got to Fort Myers to start rehabbing.
Alex Spear had a tweet that was like, if he's healthy, they will consider sending him there.
Yeah. And it's just like, if he just got to Fort Myers, I think they might lean towards having, because the thing is, I think the AFL is earlier. No, AFL isn't earlier this year. The fall performance program.
No, the fall performance. Yeah. Because they're doing that in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Like they're doing it like during September.
Yeah. It's when the low A seasons end.
Yeah.
So which makes sense, by the way, actually.
Probably need to get that roster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just extend the season for them. And I think there's something to giving guys a longer off season, I think, that gets lost sometimes.
Well, it is interesting, too. There actually are teams doing legit instructs. The Red Sox are not one of them, but there are teams who are going to be playing games. So
in Florida?
Yeah. There's Okay. There's a couple. The Red Sox and Twins are not, though. I know that. Okay. So, yeah.
Well, at any rate, I think if there's a chance Meyer could get hurt worse in the Arizona Fall League, they will not send him. But if they think he's healthy enough and they think he's fine, I think he's the most obvious person that they could send there. I could easily see them sending Teal. I thought they might send Hickey, but like,
I could see them sending both.
But it's like Teal is clearly the higher priority prospect. And if they think he can handle it, they will send him.
I think he can handle it.
And the thing is, it's like, he might be too advanced for the AFL next year.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you would send him next year because he's going to be in Worcester next year. When was the last time they sent a guy who was in AAA, like who wasn't injured? But I think you're looking at in the infield, Meyer, Chase Mydroth,
basically
Brainer
anyone in that Portland infield. I mean, probably not York
Bonusy,
because he went last year, but you
and
could send
he's also
Jordan
played the full
Mydroth
season.
Bonusy.
Yeah. I would agree.
You probably let York shut it down. Outfield, I could see Roman Anthony.
Why not? I mean, it probably depends on. I could see them shutting him down too if he's like.
If he's tired.
It's been a long season.
It's been a very long season. They've never sent a guy in his first full season that I can recall to the AFL.
So I think outfield, Corey Rozier maybe.
Could see Rozier.
Maybe
I said Philip Sykes a couple months back. I think Sykes needs a break. He's
maybe
been
Tyler McDonough as an outfielder. You want to see him?
Could see Tyler McDonough. That's a good point. I mean, he could just move around.
Yeah.
But McDonough's a possibility.
Gilberto maybe. Gilberto. Get him some ABs. I don't know. He's missed time. You're going to have to send someone for the outfield. So
yes,
it's just there are fewer names I would say for the outfield than the infield would be my biggest takeaway looking at this.
And then on the arms, I think we talked today about Hunter Dobbins. Seems like the guy to send in the starters unless you like. Do you send a Noah Song? I don't know. I think based on your look, I wouldn't.
I think Zach Penrod, if anyone from that Greenville staff,
we're going to talk about Zach Penrod. That's
more likely to
wild.
go. It's I don't remember seeing something like that before.
I mean, it's like pitching Daniel Nava is what he could potentially be.
Alex Hoppy maybe. Or
Troy. They have any number of relievers.
There's a ton of relievers, so there's no real point of speculating with them. But
Troy, Hoppy, Zephyr John. I mean, Zephyr John went last year, but they've sent guys twice.
Yeah.
You could send starters as relievers. Like I could see Angel Bastardo going as a reliever to just get like 10 more innings.
Yeah.
Right. I could see Lou going as a reliever to get 10 more innings.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll send Wickleman Gonzalez, but they might.
I don't either.
And for what it's worth, for those who are listening out there did used to be a rule that if you are from a country that has a winter league, you can't play in the AFL. That is not a thing anymore. So that's why we're saying
the only thing is you can't send anyone on the 40-man roster.
Correct.
That's so like Brian Mata can't go. Yeah, that was the big one.
That's the huge one. In theory, they could send Franklin Herman.
Yeah, he actually pitched tonight in Salem.
I could see Franklin Herman going now that I think about it.
Oh, we should also mention Zach Kelly is rehabbing now.
Oh, Zach Kelly rehabbing. Yeah. He can't go to the AFL, but Zach Kelly was in Greenville when you were, and then he went to Salem, which is cool because he's like from Roanoke.
And then he will, I would assume, head up to probably next week. Both Worcester and Portland are home, so he'll go to one of them next week.
Probably Portland, I would guess, but who knows?
They're both home, so yeah. He might do both. You never know. So it's good to see him back, and we'll get into it. He looked pretty good.
Yep. Excellent. I think that's everything. The only other thing that I would mention is that Elmer Rodriguez Cruz got activated from his injury. He was out for a significant period of time. So good to see him come back at the end of the year and get one or two more, probably just one. But did he start last week? He did. So he'll get one more, 2 starts before the end of the year. Good to get him back on the mound, and then he'll almost certainly go down to Fort Myers, which reminds me, I got to get that roster. Anything else? No, I think should we move on to Greenville? All right. You spent the week with the drive, Ian. We don't have time to talk about everyone. We would be here for a long time.
I would say if you're interested in more detailed stuff, all the scouting reports will be updated over the next few weeks, and
some already have.
Yeah. Just check the scouting log. It'll tell you who's been
updated. If you go on the homepage, you can see scouting log at the top. You can go there. It'll have links to anything that's been updated, or it's soxprospects.com/scouting. We'll get you there.
And some stuff might venture to the news page too. So keep an eye on that.
Let's start with the headliners, the obvious guys that we need to talk about. And we'll start in the field. Let's go with the guys we already talked about in Kyle Teal and Roman Anthony. What'd you see? What'd you think? We're going to talk about rankings next episode. Anthony is very firmly entrenched at number 2. You had a very interesting comment about him.
I would say he's very firmly entrenched in the top 2.
Well, that's what I was alluding to.
Yeah.
And Teal, we should probably just preview this right now for those who are listening. In our next rankings update, 3 through 5 are not changing.
And neither is the top 2. Top 5 are going to be the exact same.
Yeah, top 5 are going to be the same. But with 3 through 5, we are basically punting a discussion we need to have about how to rank Rafaela, Teal, and Miguel Blaze. Because we don't want to talk about it now and then feel differently in a month and a half.
Yeah, because I think just for me, I think they're all top 100 prospects right now.
They're in the same tier. It's like, they're very clearly a tier.
Yeah. So it's like it's really
it's a discussion that needs to happen, and we
like
don't want
a lengthier discussion. It's an end of season rankings discussion, not a monthly one.
So anyway, Roman Anthony. I guess do Roman Anthony first.
You want to do Roman Anthony first?
Let's do Roman Anthony first.
He was really good.
Okay. Now Kyle Teal. What did you know?
No. So
I mean, you caught him on a great week. I'll pull his numbers from the week.
Yeah, I actually I had it. I was bringing it up. Roman Anthony. So I'll start at the plate. So he can hit. He just, I don't know. It's so interesting because he just makes it. He really makes it look easy. Like I feel like we say that a decent amount, but when I think of easy, I think of what Anthony does. And part of it is it's a great frame. You know, he's 6'3", probably 180, 190. There's still some projection. He looks the part. But when he goes up there and he's had some issues with his strikeouts in the second half, not an issue in this series. He had 6 strikeouts, I think, in like 20 plate appearances. So
he was 6 for 16 with 6 Ks and 4 walks, 2 doubles and a homer, 500 OBP.
Yeah, and I think the thing that just impressed me the most was he hit lefties, and that was kind of have been the biggest issue coming into the season.
Mm-hmm.
But like he faced this pretty nasty lefty from Brooklyn on, I want to say it was one of the first game, maybe. No, probably the second game, actually. Yeah, it was definitely the second game. And he got a slider down and away, and he just hit it like 390 feet out to left center field. And this was against like a solid slider. It's probably like a 50-55 slider from a lefty from a low slot that is really tough to pick up on. And he just crushed it to left center field. And it was a great swing. You know, it slider away, went with it. And it's little swings like that that give me hope that I know his splits for the season are bad. He's been better in Greenville against lefties than he was in Salem.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's got a chance to hit lefties. And I think that's the biggest steps in his development remaining at the plate for me are consistency against lefties and laying off of breaking balls. Because the pitch he did struggle with was that front foot breaking ball down and in from righties. He chased that a few times, and it seems like because of his swing, he seems like he's trying to get out a little bit. And as a result, he can get caught out on breaking or soft stuff down in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if he can find more consistency in those two areas, like he's got a chance to be a above average hitter for average.
If I could just jump in with Anthony's numbers versus left-handers in Salem in 32 plate appearances. So we're talking small sample sizes here, but in 32 plate appearances, he struck out 10 times, 435 OPS. In Greenville, again, the strikeout numbers were still high. He struck out 12 times in 35 plate appearances, but he had a 902 OPS, mostly because instead of walking 3 times, he walked 11 times.
Yeah.
So it
seems like he's getting more comfortable.
He tripled his walk rate.
He seems like he's getting more comfortable picking up the ball from them.
Yep. He also had much better ball and play luck, which could be, it's
such a small sample too.
But it's 32 and a 35.
But that's the thing he's going to have to do is that against lefties, he's going to get breaking balls away. And if he can use the other way and use opposite field, and he's got legit opposite field power, like his batting practice is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to get smoked with fastballs in. And if he can turn on those, which is something that there was some, like early in the series, he was going to left field with everything. But then as the series went along, he started pulling the ball too. And it was just really impressive to see. Like he's got a very advanced approach for his age. There's definitely swing and miss in his game, and if you look at actually what he did, I think it was all 3 of the 6 strikeouts came in one game. I think it was the last game that he played the series on the Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder if there was some fatigue setting in because he had played all the previous games coming into that. But he exceeded my expectations, and I think that there's a real chance that there's a discussion about who the number 1 prospect in the system is at the end of the season.
Which is
and the
wild.
fact that I'm even saying that was not something I expected to, but
nope.
He was that impressive. And I think the reason I got there where that thought kind of creeped into my mind was because of what he showed in the field. He was awesome in center field. And I know I talked to some scouts about it, and they were a little skeptical because they saw him and weren't that impressed in him in center field, but he had one game where he had like 8 or 9 balls hit to him, and he was there every time. First step was quick. He was reading the ball off the bat well. The routes were really good. He closes down ground, even though he's probably only like a 55-ish runner. he closes ground really, really quickly because of how long his strides are. Like, he's a really big guy. And the fact that he made it look that easy at his size in center field was really impressive. And he's got a good arm too. And so, when you look at the total skill set, like, there's a real chance for at least 50 tools there. And the speed is the one the speed and the hit are probably the two ones you're going to have to watch the most. Speed, just because he's big, like, and he's going to get more muscular, more physical. And I could see him becoming more like, a fringy average runner at best. And then the hit, as we talked about, the lefties and the breaking ball recognition. But overall, very impressive. He's really good. And he's the type of player that, if they're looking for a starting pitcher, he's the first name probably or second name that's going to come up in trades. And if I were them, I wouldn't trade him, because I think, there's a chance that he could be one of those, cornerstone types of players for them going forward for years to come.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that it's almost like Marcelo Meyer's injury would almost prevent me from wanting to do that, because
well, it's also
you
that
don't want to ding a guy for being hurt.
No, it's the same thing with Blaze. Like, you don't want to ding him for being hurt. And Meyer too, I am pretty convinced that his numbers were torpedoed by that injury. I think he tried to play through it for a couple weeks, and then because he was fine and then all of a sudden his numbers just fell off a cliff.
Well, it's his numbers were bad, but it was like clearly ball in play luck driven bad numbers suddenly turned into like he's striking out all the time. I mean, you all saw it because you were writing and emailing us about it. And it's like,
yeah,
why is this guy striking out so much all of a sudden if he's this great prospect?
Yeah,
I get that, but it's like, okay, well, let's see. And when he got hurt, it's like, of course he's hurt. But that makes perfect sense.
Yep. Especially shoulder. Like, we've seen what a shoulder can do to a season, especially if you're a hitter. So
yep, 100%. Kyle Teal, what'd you think?
Again, I was very impressed. And I think the first thing to get out of the way with Teal is I'm not sure he has a plus tool, honestly. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a bunch of 50s that he's going to get the most out of, because he tries so hard, and you can tell he cares so much. Like, the picture, I don't know if you don't follow, if you don't follow Kelly O'Connor at Sitting Still, I believe, on X/Twitter, you should, because she does all the photos for us at the site, does a great job, just a key part of the operation we have. And she was down in Greenville when I was there and took a picture of Teal looking like an absolute maniac running.
He looks like he's running for his life.
It's incredible.
He looks like he's being chased by Jason Voorhees.
The thing is, like, it makes sense. There was one play that stands out where, so he's obviously catching, and it was a ground ball somewhere, and the first baseman, Brian Gonzalez, who's not really first baseman.
No.
He collided with the base runner trying to field the ball. I think it was Carson Seamus throw. And all of a sudden, Teal is just diving on the ground to keep the ball out of the dugout. And he actually got called for, he used his helmet to stop it from going in the dugout.
Yeah,
which can't do. But it was just, why was he had no business being there. Like, he sprinted down the line, and it's that type of effort that really stands out. Like, that's the type of stuff scouts love, coaches love it. And for a catcher, it's exactly what I want to see. I want to see a guy who is everywhere. He's one of those guys that if you're playing against him, you're like, dude, just chill. You don't need to, every secondary lead doesn't need to be like intense.
Yeah.
You don't need to be, faking stealing to try and get a good jump on the pitcher on every single pitch, like things like that. And I love to see it. Like, I just think he really carries himself the right way. He carries himself, frankly, like a big leaguer already. He's super engaged with the game, and he's just, I think it's a combination of instincts and effort that he's just always in the right position. And I think the best example of that was the throw that Chris Clegg captured accidentally because he was filming Jet Williams, where he threw a runner out on a pitch that was like down in a way that he was lunging, and he literally just submarined it to second base.
He looked like a shortstop.
The first thing was, it showed how he is insanely athletic for a catcher, like in a great way.
It's what Brian O'Connor was talking about. Yeah.
He moves so well behind the plate. And this throw, it wasn't just that, it was right on the money. It was a line drive. And if you haven't watched the video, go to Chris Clegg's Twitter. I retweeted it too. Check it out. But his pop time was like 1.9, 1.92, 1.96, like depending on a bunch of different scouts there. That's an above average to plus pop time on a throw that he had to reach his glove across his body, and he threw using only his arm with no lower body at all. Like, that's insane. Yeah. And it was just one of those moments where when you watch it back, you're like, how did he do that? Like, that should not have happened. And I posted some video of him catching, and his I really like his receiving. It's soft hands. Like, he lets the umpire get a really good look. He's very good at glove position and moving it back into the zone really quickly. Like, he definitely bought some strikes for the pitchers. And I also really liked the way that he interacted with the pitchers. He was very, very supportive. I thought it was interesting that a lot of the mound visits he would just do himself. Like, he would go out there and talk to them and seem to really settle down the pitchers and seem to have an effect after he talked to them.
Yeah.
And these are all the things you love to see from a catcher. And then at the plate, like, he's got a really good approach. He really knows the strike zone. It's the barrier for me for knowing the strike zone is still Costas calling out balls and strikes, which I still think is one of the funniest things ever. But Teal really, like, he tracks the ball really well. He's super confident with his takes. There was one, it was a 3-2 pitch, very borderline pitch, and he was just like, nope, that's a ball, and just started walking to first base. And when you do that confidently, I feel like it has an impact on the ump. Like, if you're and when you're a catcher,
there's
if you're
some
that
who it will
confident,
annoy. There's some
but
it'll annoy, and they'll do the
I don't know.
opposite
I
thing.
liked it. He was like, nope, this is a ball. I'm going to first base, and it was a
Yeah.
ball. And he's got some pop. Like, I don't think it's plus power, but I could see him getting to, like, 12, 15, 18 home runs in a season.
Mhm.
And I think the contact skills are there. He's going to make a bunch of contact. He's going to walk a bunch. He can run, and it's an unorthodox swing. There he does not get cheated. Like, he really gets his whole body into it. He coils up almost and then just, like, explodes through the ball. And it's good bat speed, and yeah, it's a really impressive skill set. And I frankly can't believe he fell to 14. Like,
Hmm.
that is crazy to me. And maybe, you know what, it honestly could just be like, there probably is not a plus tool, and maybe teams,
Yeah.
maybe he's more on the safe side with a lower ceiling. But if you're telling me he could be a guy who's like a 260 to 280 hitter with 15-ish home runs, 10 steals, and play plus above average plus defense and catcher, like, sign me up.
Mhm.
That's an everyday regular borderline all-star. So yeah, he's really impressive, and he's someone that I completely understand why a lot of publications have on their top 100 list already. And frankly, I don't think he's going to be in the minors very long. I don't think it's crazy to think he's up at some point next season, frankly. I think
Yeah.
it's more likely the season after, but with the way they've pushed him so aggressively this far, and with how kind of barren true catchers are at the upper minors for the Red Sox right now, if you told me that going the next year they needed a third catcher in the summer and it was Teal, I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's I could see it. The point that I made on our forum the other day that I wanted to make here is that because of the way the minors are now, if a guy moves quickly to double A, do not assume he is going to move just as quickly from double A and from triple A. Those are the
No,
levels where it's going to be crucial to get guys
without a doubt.
250, 300 plate appearances.
Without a doubt. But I just look
Yeah.
at the catching depth in the system and I say,
Yeah.
if
He
they
might be
need
the
someone
third
who
best
can
catcher.
actually catch,
Yeah.
who else is there? Because
Yeah.
I like Nathan Hickey and Steven Scott a lot. I wouldn't want them as my backup catcher.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone I would be comfortable, like, unless, I mean, Eli Morera could do it, but you're not going to just put him there to be the backup catcher. So
No.
I just think if something happens, it's something to keep an eye on for next year, especially if he continues to perform.
100%. All right. Maybe not going quite as in depth, Ian, but the next tier of guys is Edinson Paulino in the infield and Alan Castro in the outfield, and then maybe Cutter Coffee as an infielder as well. As far as guys you saw, obviously Mikey Romero is hurt.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
I actually think that calling them a tier is good, because I would have Castro and Paulino really close together. And I think they get to their future value in different ways. I think Castro is a little bit more of a bat oriented guy.
Mhm.
I don't think he's a center fielder. I think he could fake it, but he's better in right field to me.
Yep. Agreed.
At the plate is kind of what he's gonna have to hit. That's where it's gonna come down to. And his left-handed swing is really good. I like it a lot. Pretty easy. He's got raw power. He can hit the ball really hard from the left side. Right-handed, I don't like it as much. He's actually got pretty noticeable splits this year. And the swing's longer from the right side. It kind of comes around the ball. It's slower to get going. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not saying abandon switch hitting, but I do think it's something to bear watching if that continues as he moves up the ladder. I don't know if you can bring up the splits right now.
Yeah,
But
I brought him up on our website. Unfortunately, it's by level, but it's, in Salem at least, because in Greenville he doesn't have that many at bats against left-handed pitchers, but in Salem he had an 813 OPS against right-handed pitchers in 256 plate appearances, and against left-handers he had 50 plate appearances in which he had a 466
Yeah.
OPS.
For the
Hit 163.
Yeah.
So
For the season, it's 70 plate appearances, 629 OPS against lefties.
yeah, he's actually been really good in Greenville, believe it or not, but it's also with a 455 average of balls in play. He's 6 for
That's not
17 in
probably not going to
Greenville.
last.
So
And then
it's
818
yeah.
against lefties. But yeah, I think there's projection with this frame. He's got to get stronger, and I think when he does, he will hit the ball harder than he already does. Where his Vegas velos are fine right now,
Mhm.
so he's definitely an interesting guy, and I think there's a pathway to like a 50 maybe. He's probably like, well, obviously we're not going to have him in that tier right now, but I think the upside is there for a 50 for a regular type. Paulinho is interesting because I know his overall numbers are kind of pedestrian for the season, but I still like him a lot. Like,
He had a great week while you were there. He went 8 for 20 with 4 doubles and only one strikeout to 3 walks.
yeah, and I think that the biggest thing for him is he just needs to understand who he is as a player and not try to be a power hitter.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing we talked about with David Hamilton. Paulinho is tiny. He's 5'8", probably 160 pounds. Like, and it's not a projectable frame, but because it's just not a lot of room to add muscle there. But he's got bat speed, and when he shortens up with 2 strikes, like he just makes solid line drive contact, and that's good. And the bad Paulinho is when he's trying to hit a home run on every pitch for an at bat with nobody on base. And I want to see that shorter, more compact swing from him, because if he can do that, I think he could be a decent hitter for average. There won't be a ton of power, but I think that could play. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is it was the first time I've got to see him get an extended run at shortstop for a long time, because they just have so many shortstops. It's been tough for him to
Yeah.
play there consistently. He's a good defender at shortstop. It's a good arm, 55 arm. And he moves well there, makes all the routine plays, but he's got good range, soft hands. He's comfortable throwing in the run. I think I put a major league grade on him defensively at shortstop. And I think just having that alone, along with his speed and his contact ability is a pretty interesting prospect, and someone who's definitely top 20 in the system for me.
Mm-hmm. You didn't love what you saw at Cutter Coffee.
No,
I thought that was interesting.
It was a rough series for him.
Yeah, 2 for 13 with 6 Ks.
I just think he's overmatched at the level. He
His numbers at the level are not good.
He needs to get stronger. I think the offseason is definitely needed for him to get more physical and kind of come. He just looked a step slow off almost. At the plate, his timing was off. He takes a walk, but there's just not a lot of impact when he swings. And that's the biggest concern for me is, he was someone in coming out of high school who was supposed to have, some raw power. And I didn't see a lot of power from him there. So, and he definitely could have been playing through an injury, as we talked about earlier. He was in the lineup one day, and I had him written down on my sheet as playing. And then when his spot in the lineup came up, he wasn't there. So they replaced him pretty close to game time, and then he didn't play the rest of the week there. So I do wonder if maybe he's playing through something. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good experience for him to get in Greenville. It's where he'll start next year, and we'll have a better idea with him next season.
Yeah, he's got 2 extra base hits and 79 plate appearances in Greenville. So it's been a real struggle.
Yeah,
for him at the level. But granted, 200 average on balls in play, but it is what it is. Any other hitters?
But I do think I think that batted ball data though, like if a guy doesn't make hard contact,
exactly, he's going to have a low average on balls in
Yeah.
play. 100%.
So, yeah,
It's not like it's 050 average on
No.
balls in play where that's clearly luck driven.
no.
Anyone else that I mean, I'm trying to look at, some guys had good weeks, but is there anyone else worth mentioning, or should we switch to the other side of the ball? I guess Christian Campbell is
I was just going to say, like,
3 draft.
I was just going to rapid fire a few guys. Carson Seamus can still play the field really well. He was pretty impressive at third base. Brian Gonzalez has big raw power. He just doesn't really have an idea what he's doing at the plate. It's a pretty rough approach, but if he can ever tighten that up, he can hit the ball really hard.
It's weird because he's hit 4th for them like all season long.
Yeah. And he just makes a lot of hard contact when he does make contact. That's just not that frequent. Yep. And then I got Campbell. Campbell's an interesting one. His swing is really weird.
It's really strange. You sent that video to us.
Yeah, I'll put it up I'll make sure it's up on Twitter by the time this goes up. But when he makes contact, he hits the ball hard. It's almost all on the ground. But his timing is also just like, he takes some ugly swings at the plate. And I like his frame. I think he's athletic. He can run in the field. Second base, he was okay. I don't love him there. Arm's kind of fringy too, but when he like with 2 strikes, he's almost a better hitter. It's really weird. Like the first, he fell behind consistently, and it was really ugly swings. And then he gets to 2 strikes, and he just he'd hit like a hard ground ball up the middle for a hit, and that's how he's hitting. He's hitting 346, 500, 577 there. And so, yeah, it's an interesting swing. And I do wonder if it's something they look to tweak in the offseason. I know that that's usually what they do is they let the guys out of the draft year kind of keep
Just come play.
just play. And then if they're going to make some changes, they do it in the offseason. But that's something I'm going to be watching with him because there's definitely some interesting things there. But just with that current swing, I just don't see him being able to make consistent hard contact in the air, even especially against more advanced pitching.
Mm-hmm. Probably should mention Gilberto. When he only went 2 for 15 for you, but
I mean, he is what he is at this point. It's,
yeah,
it's some guys just don't have the aptitude to kind of transmit or transfer the raw skills they have to on the field performance. And he's someone who is just a tantalizing athlete with like impressive raw ability who just never was able to get the finer points and nuances of baseball and translate it to on-field performance. But it's why you keep giving those guys a chance is if something does click, who knows what could happen, but the clock is running out, I think, on him, unfortunately. I mean, we'll see. He's going to get every shot, but he's going to have to make some pretty substantial changes for me.
All right, let's move to the mound then.
Sure.
You saw an interesting cadre of starters, some interesting relievers. Let's start at the top with Luis Perales. You saw him go 5 2/3, gave up 5 runs on 7 hits and 2 walks, including giving up 2 home runs. 7 Ks though, in 5 2/3. The numbers aren't great, but what did you see in terms of the stuff?
So it's not that surprising the numbers aren't great because the fastball command is just not really there. And his fastball is one that when it's above the letters or, at the hand level, it's fine. But if it gets down into the plate, it's pretty straight and very hittable. Yep. And he gave up a couple of tanks on it, which happens. I mean, he's still learning as a pitcher, but the raw stuff is interesting, 94, 96 with his fastball. He's actually throwing a cutter now at like 88 to 91. And a slider, which it looks like a curveball, but apparently it's a slider. So I'm going to call it a slider now, in like the 81 to 84, 85 mile an hour range. It's pretty vertical, 11-5 shape, which I would call it a curveball, but again, right. it's a slider.
I saw the same thing because he would, when I go, I get video of guys warming up because they give the hand motion for what the pitch is before they throw it. And he gave the slider signal before he threw the breaking ball. I was like, it's a slider? Like,
yeah,
really?
And it's super vertical in it too. Whatever. Yeah. But that's a good pitch. I think that's potential above average plus pitch. It's got bat missing ability. He can really snap it off when he's got it going. So that's an impressive pitch. And the fastball can miss bats too. Like I think he had 12 swing and misses on his fastball in that game, but it's just the command has to be on point because it is a pretty hittable pitch when it's in the zone. Changeup also was good. He didn't throw it very much, mostly versus lefties, but I still think that's an average potential pitch, at least maybe even better than that. So I still like him. I think the things that are concerning to me are the command obviously is something he's going to have to take a pretty big step forward with. There's some effort in the delivery and he's not the biggest guy. So, he's not a surefire starter to me. I think there's definitely still something to be decided there, whether it's a bullpen or starting pitching prospect long-term, but I still like him a lot. I think he's a really exciting arm.
I guess the next guy up. Well, do we just go ahead and talk? Let's not keep the people waiting. People want to hear about Noah Song, and you heard him twice. For over the 2 starts, he allowed 4 runs in 10 innings on 6 hits and 4 walks, 2 home runs. Did strike out 7. We should mention, is going to enter the Sox prospects rankings next week. I think a lot lower than some people would think. What'd you think of Song?
It's a soft one because it's a unique case. Like we've never had a situation like this, and there's no track record or there's no book to follow here. And I don't know what his stuff is going to look like next year, and that's the biggest wild card to me. Because Ruddy is right now, and I do wonder how much of it is him just not really letting it rip because he's just focusing on trying to get his mechanics and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, because the delivery, there's definitely some effort, and he gets get out of sync really easily. He was just constantly yanking his fastball up and glove side. But his fastball now is more like 89 to 91. He can dial it up to 92, 93 when he needs to. And I do think it's something of he is trying to focus on command and control. So he's taking a little bit off it. But it's not the same it was before, pre military service. He was like 96, 95, 96 miles an hour up to 99. I've seen him before. So the fastball is just not the same quality of pitch that it was before. And as a result, he struggles to miss bats with it. He'll get the occasional swing and miss, but for his best pitch right now is still his breaking ball. It's a true slider, like 80 to 84 miles an hour, 10 to 4. Two planes, got some depth, horizontal. He really likes to it. That's his primary, whiff pitch, especially against righties. He can really bury it down and away. He can land it in the zone. So that's a solid pitch. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still, that's a usable pitch. But um the fastball is just light, and it's just, as we talked about, you have to have a fastball these days. There just aren't that many pitchers who can get away pitching it 90, 91 miles an hour. And so yeah, that's the big question for me, is what is the fastball going to look like next spring? And I think that's kind of where it's a wait and see mode with him, because yeah, he still got the changeup too. Changeup was like 80 to 83, good arm speed. Didn't throw it very much. So I do wonder if maybe he knows that that's actually a pitch he's pretty comfortable with. So he's working on the other stuff. And then he'll mix in an occasional curveball, 72 to 74, which it was like that before. But it's just, the stuff is just, it's not the same caliber as it was before.
It's
And I
backed
think
way
that,
up, but there's a
yeah,
good reason. You don't even want to call it that because it's just, of
no, because that's
course
why
it did.
in the report, when it gets updated, I think it'll be up by the time this is up. The song report will be. We talk about that, right now it's just impossible to judge him, and I think more fair, or a fair time to judge him will be next season, because he's going to have an entire off season of focusing on baseball training, and that'll be the first time he's done that in 4 years. And
Mhm.
once how he comes in next spring and into next season, beginning of next season, will give us a much better idea of where he's at, and if there's any chance for the stuff to tick back up closer to what it was before.
Mhm. Mhm. I guess that I don't want to go through the entire rotation, but I kind of do. I guess so. The other three starters you saw were Yordani Monegro, Zach Penrod, and Dalton Rogers, and we're getting pretty far into the show. I don't want to hold you back, but what did you have to say about those guys? Maybe Monegro and Penrod are the two that I'm most interested in. But if you feel like there's enough to talk about with Rogers too, go
So
for it.
I'll go Monegro first. He was
Yeah,
his final line was really good. 5 innings, 4 hits, 0 walks, 1 strikeout, or excuse me, one
one walk,
walk, 0 runs,
8 Ks.
1 walk, 8 Ks.
Hmm.
Only 49 strikes and 83 pitches, I think. But he's a weird pitcher in the
Yeah,
sense that
loves
he
his
basically
curveball.
he pitches backwards, basically.
Loves
Like,
it.
he probably threw like 60% breaking balls, and he spent the pretty much last couple of innings pitching off his curveball and slider.
He loves that
And
pitch. Yep.
that's the other thing that's interesting, is he's fastball, curveball, slider. There's no changeup, or at least he didn't throw it in this outing.
Hmm.
And he showed like a couple in spring training, but
Mhm.
I don't think he's thrown only a handful this year, the entire season. So he's a righty with 2 breaking balls. And um you contrast this with what we talked about, Paralysis. He did not get a single swing and miss with his fastball in this outing. And that's the concern
Wow.
I have with him, is
Interesting.
the fastball quality is just not there. The velocity is good, and this is where I'm gonna hedge a little bit and say that I think this is fixable, because he's got a great frame. It's a super loose arm. He's athletic. He checks all the box. His delivery, there's some effort, like there's a head whack and some stuff going on, but the way his arm works,
Swagger.
but no, that's not what I meant. But the
No,
way
no,
his
no. I'm
arm,
saying he also. You're checking the boxes. I'm saying he pitches with
well,
swagger, and I like
oh
that.
yeah, but that not. I was going to say checking the boxes for gaining
For
velocity was more
gotcha.
where I was
Sorry.
going with that.
Never
Um,
mind.
but with his
I
delivery,
ruined
like,
it.
and the way the arm works, I would not be surprised at all if there's another level of velocity to be unlocked here. And he's already gained some throughout his time in the system. He was 93
Hmm.
to 96 in this game. But if you told me next year he was pumping like 98, 99, topping out at that, I would not be surprised at all, because I just think that there's a chance with the way his arm works and all that stuff that I talked about, that the more velocity is there. And I think that will be the big thing, is where the fastball goes is what's going to determine his future. Because I do like his curveball. I think it's a good pitch. It's got good depth. He's super, super confident with it. And the slider is okay. It's better. It's better when it's better harder. It runs into his breaking ball too much for me. which is kind of the issue. Like his breaking ball ranges, I had his curveball 76, 77 to 81, and then his slider 82 to 86. And when you're like 81, 82, 83, it looks a lot pretty similar. So I do think he could stand to get more differentiation between those two pitches, whether that be by kind of throwing more of a cutter than a slider or something like that. I would love to see a cutter from him, frankly. But it's definitely an interesting arm, and he's 20. Like he's still super young with a really projectable frame and a good athlete. So I'm very intrigued with to see what he looks like next season. Because
so it's interesting that you say that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying he's someone I'm going to be. He's going to be in around the 30ish range, and I'm very interested to see what he looks like next season because I do think there is potentially another level with him that could kind of push him more towards a starter than right now, where I think he's more like a reliever candidate.
So when I saw him, he was fastball, curveball, changeup.
Really?
The changeup was 89 to 91. Like and there just was not a lot of differentiation. It was a clear third pitch. He threw it a ton, but there were changeups. And he did have a pitch that I didn't know. I thought it might be a cutter, but it's clearly the slider that was 84 to 86. Maybe I classified some changeups or some sliders as the changeup, but like there was a change. Like there was a pitch that wasn't the fastball because when I saw him, he was 94 to 96, and there were pitches that were in the like at least 88 to 91 band.
Yeah, no, I know he has thrown a changeup this season. I've seen his.
But I'm just saying, like looking at your notes when you updated his report, like he did feature it.
Yeah, no,
I saw, and I'm wondering if they're kind of just tweaking it.
I was told he's not throwing a changeup right now.
Oh, he's not throwing it. Interesting.
No.
All right. Wow.
Yeah. So
all right. Well, I'm an idiot.
It's not. No. I'm not. He's definitely thrown it, and I've like his pitch data has changeups on it. I don't know how many. I think it's like under 30. But so he's definitely thrown something that is being classified as a changeup this season. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying in this outing,
what if they're like two seams or something, but it's always a two seam.
What I mean is in this outing, I was told he wasn't throwing a changeup. He was just a 3-pitch guy. So I don't know if they shelved it. I could see it being an off-season project where maybe they work on him to see if he can get a different grip, something, I just wonder if they were like, focus on what you're good on right now, which is fastball, breaking ball, and we'll figure out the changeup in the offseason. There's no point in throwing it in games. But yeah, no, he's interesting. And then we have to talk about Zach Penrod because
this is weird. So okay, let's back up.
Yeah.
Red
give
Sox,
the timeline here because this is important.
Well, you mean his career timeline
No.
Them signing him?
How he got to the Red Sox?
The Red Sox signed Zach Penrod at a time that they desperately needed an arm in the Greenville rotation. I forget what was it that they promoted guys, or was it the guys got hurt? It was they desperately needed someone because it was like they basically had Bastardo. Song had just come back and he was still only throwing like 2 innings. They had Perales in the rotation, obviously, and they had Rogers in the rotation. Those two were like, so it was those two. Daniel Encarnacion, who's not starting anymore, was still in the rotation. They needed a guy clearly for the rotation. And so it looked like they just went and signed an indie league guy.
And I'll be honest,
just thought he was an NP.
That's what I thought too. Like when I saw a lefty from indie ball who's 26, I was like, he's gonna be like 87.
Well, so here's the career path. He started at an NAIA school for 2 years, transferred to a D2 school for his junior season, went undrafted and signed with the Rangers after he had a really good summer in like his the West Coast League, a summer collegiate league. This is in August of 2018.
2018, yeah.
He has Tommy John in April of 2019.
Well, no, but he threw like 2 innings for the Rangers, right?
Yeah,
or something.
It was like it was 4 appearances.
Yeah,
in the complex league.
Yeah,
has Tommy John in April of 2019. Gets released in June of 2020 in that like
COVID
when teams have released a bunch of COVID guys, or at least released a bunch of guys citing COVID, basically. Rehabs, spends May of 2021 through August of 2023 playing in the now independent Pioneer League, which used to be an advanced rookie league. So he played for like Boise, Billings, and Missoula, which I just love seeing those as the 3 teams.
He's from Idaho, so
he's from Idaho. Yeah. And then the Red Sox signed him in August, and we did confirm like last week that he is signed through next season, or he is not a free agent this offseason.
No, that's good because
so he's sticking around. So tell us about Zach Penrod, because this is
yeah,
crazy.
I thought he was gonna be like 86 to 88. I was like, when you see because guys, you don't go pitch an indie ball for 3 straight years and end up with a team unless you're usually like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Crafty lefty.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. And
then he comes out throwing 94 to 96.
Yeah, his first, well, no, it's weird. So his first pitch of the game was like 91. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, a little better. But then the rest of the inning, it was like 94, 96, 97, or sorry, not 96, 94, 96, 95, 94, 94. I was like, wait, what's going on here? And so I was like, got locked in. And
he's been good.
I think he's good. Let's get this out of the way. There's not a high ceiling here. Like, he's already 26.
I mean, so the start you saw, he went 6 innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, no runs, 8 Ks.
Yeah.
Like, he dealt.
But it's 3 or 4 starts, and I don't think he's given up a run. Is that right?
I don't think he has. Yeah, in 4 starts, he's given up 5 runs. 1 home. Yeah, but like whip of
tonight?
1.
Because I'm looking at BREF and he hasn't given up a run.
Okay, he must have gotten hit hard tonight.
He did pitch tonight. Actually, let's see what happened.
Yeah, he gave up the 5 runs tonight then, because his whip is like 131.
Yeah, he can throw strikes tonight. Yeah. Anyway, but so the part that's interesting to me is that he's left-handed. Lefties throwing 96 don't grow on trees. Like, I could count on one hand the number of guys in the Red Sox system who are left-handed who can get up to 96. There's not a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's not just that. He's like a 5-pitch guy. He's throwing a fastball like mostly 92, 94, tops out at 96. Cutter in the low 90s, like 89, 90, 91. Changeup at 84 to 87, which he'll flash some like 50, 55 ones, but then he also will slow his body pretty considerably, and then some of them are pretty telegraphed. But it's like a decent feel for a changeup, and he throws 2 breaking balls. It's a slider and a sweeper. And I just, like, if you're telling me you can get a lefty who's up to 96 with 5 pitches that are all like fringy-ish, that's super interesting to me. And I know he's 26, but he's pitched, like, as you said, 4 times in affiliated ball before this season. And I don't know. I like, and shout out good friend of the site, former Lowell Spinners, general manager, I believe, or
boss.
Yeah, who I tweeted about him, and he's like, he basically was like Aaron Wilkerson-esque, and I was like, great callback. That's
a comp, yeah. That's
because
a good comp.
Aaron Wilkerson, if you don't remember,
indie ball guy who made it to the majors.
Yeah, and like, if you told me he made it to majors in some capacity, I would not be surprised at all. Like, there's not a lot of ceiling. He's most likely just an org guy, but the fact that we're even talking about this is kind of crazy considering where he came from. And so, I thought it was pretty cool to see, someone who, and this is why you scout those levels. It's like, sometimes you can find a diamond in the rough. And even if all he is a guy who can give them innings this year and next between, Greenville and Portland, that's super valuable because, as we talked about, you can't have every pitcher can't be a stud prospect. You have to have those depth guys who can give you innings, and he can give them length. He can mix his pitches, and when he's throwing strikes, and that's going to be the big question, is the command and the control. He didn't have it tonight. He had it, in the start I saw, but if you look at his numbers from when he was in indie ball, that was definitely something that, 32 walks and 54 innings this year. Mm-hmm. Got to tighten that up, but he's very interesting. I'm interested to see what the pitching development staff can kind of get out of him in the future, because he's certainly better than just an indie ball signing to me. Like, he's someone who's going to break into the top 60 because, there's a legitimate chance that there's some interesting stuff there. So yeah, a very interesting, fun signing there.
Let's lightning round the rest of the pitching staff. There's a lot of guys you wanted to talk about, I think. A lot of
I'll just hit on 4 of them, and if you want to find out more on the rest of them, just scouting reports and news pages we talked about earlier. Dalton Rogers was he's like 91 to 94. Changeup is his best pitch, 83 to 84. 81 to 83. He also throws a slider in the same velocity band, like 80 to 82. I think the slider is more like a fringy pitch, but I think he's a reliever to me. He's not very big. The stuff kind of noticeable drop in quality as he pitches deeper into the game. And that's the biggest concern for me. When you're not a very physical guy and your stuff drops off as considerably as his does. Mm-hmm. that's kind of usually is pointing towards the bullpen route. And I actually be interested. I don't if, and I know it's hard, you can't get this, but I do wonder what his splits would be like if we looked at like first time through, second time through, third time through, et cetera. Because
Yep.
I feel like there's probably a pretty noticeable drop off as we've seen with some other pitchers at the Red Sox, the major league level. Then three bullpen guys I would quickly talk about. The first two I'll just kind of rapid fire together is Felix Cepeda and Felix Cepeda and Reyes Sena. I believe I did that right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Both of them throw really hard. They're both like up to 98 from the right side. Sena is tiny. He's like 5'11", but it's a super quick arm and he throws really hard with actually decent feel for a spin. He's got a pretty good breaking ball.
Yeah, he was 93 to 95 when I saw him. So
yeah, he was like 94 to 97 when 98 for me. And he just throws really hard.
Although I think the gun I was looking at, I think was pretty low because all of his pitches were lower than we have him in his report.
Really? Yeah,
so
I do wonder.
That's why I didn't touch him.
Yeah. He was 95 to 97. His breaking ball was 82 to 85. He threw one changeup at 93 that was really bad. He's a fastball breaking ball guy, but it's a quick arm. He throws really hard. Guys like that, there's a chance they can play if they can find consistency with their delivery and command and control. So he's pretty interesting. Spade is similar in that regard. He throws really hard. He's much bigger though. He's like probably 6'3", 220, 230, maybe even heavier. He throws really hard too. He's up to 97, 98 miles an hour with his breaking ball. I don't think it's as good as Sena's, but he's basically fastball slider, like 83 to 86. But yeah, they're both, two hard throwing righties that if they show consistency and throw enough strikes, have a chance to get up into the big leagues in some capacity. So that's pretty interesting. The last guy I'll shout out is Brock Bell. He's had actually really good numbers in Greenville.
He's had a very good year. Yeah.
And
quietly.
He's finally back after 2 Tommy Johns, I want to say. Or
it was a Tommy John, and then it was the internal brace procedure, which is like
the one
it is
Trevor
a second
Story had, right?
Tommy John. What's that?
It's the one Trevor Story had, right? The internal brace.
Yeah, but the one that he had, the one that he had, it was like when you have your second Tommy John, it's not usually like a second Tommy John surgery. It's another UCL surgery, I guess. And that's what he had.
Got it. So the thing that I liked with him is his fastball is not as good as these other guys. In the first outing I saw him, it was like 89 to 92. And then the second outing, it was consistently 93 to 94. There's a pretty big difference between those two for him. At 93 to 94, there's a chance. At 89 to 92, it's pretty fringy. But his secondaries are both pretty good. Like he's got good feel for changeup with big vertical break, and then he's got a big breaking ball, and he's got some funky delivery. He's really big. He's probably 6'4", 6'5", comes pretty much like straight over the top, which is very off-putting. It's just one of those looks you don't see very often. And with like his long arms and everything, I like the feel for secondary pitches. And if he can get that fastball velocity back to continue to tick up, then he becomes pretty interesting as a bullpen piece.
Cool. Yeah. I'm trying to think, did you see much out of Juan Daniel Encarnacion out of the bullpen, given that he just moved there?
Yeah, I saw the first day he only threw like 2 batters and then he got hurt, or not hurt, excuse me. Then it started pouring, and so he got taken out of the game. And then by the time they came back from the rain delay, he was out. Then he threw a decent amount that was when he got pulled that mid inning. Because the box score doesn't like reflect what actually happened there. Then the second time he threw, it was Sunday, and he kind of piggybacked Noah Song, I think, through maybe 2 innings or something.
Yeah, he pitched 2 1/3 over the course of the week. So if he came out of the mid inning, the first game he came in, it was 2 innings the second game.
Yeah, his stuff was down pretty considerably velocity wise from what I saw in spring. In the spring, he was like 94 to 95, and this he was like 89 to 92. It's okay fastball, a lot of moving parts in his delivery, pretty long. He's like fastball slider basically only now. He looks like a relief prospect, and I think there's he's got to get stronger. He's still pretty skinny, but there's some funkiness in his delivery, so we'll kind of see how he takes the bullpen role next season.
Love it. All right. Well, if you've got any questions about what Ian saw in Greenville, I'm kind of upset I'm not going to be able to get to see the drive this week in Aberdeen. A, because I love going up to that park, and B, because I'd love to see Greenville. But especially given that you just saw them, I'm less heartbroken about it. So thank you for letting me live vicariously through you, Mr. Kundal. So
well, I also think that Anthony and Teal getting promoted doesn't help your.
If they were there, I might have tried a little harder.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But
family
in town. So anyway, if you've got questions, hit us up, podcast@soxprospects.com. We want to talk about what you all want to hear about. We're going to do that right now. So Ian, are you ready for this week's emails. First comes from our Patreon supporter, Al Mendel, who says, suppose the Red Sox trade Alex Verdugo in the offseason, which seems likely. What would you think of the team going into 2024 without signing an outfielder? That means they would have an outfield of Yoshida, Duran, and Refsnyder, along with Abreu and or Rafaela. How confident are you that that would be enough? Thanks, Al. And that obviously assumes they don't re-sign Duvall if they did that. I don't think that's enough. Even if you really like Abreu and Rafaela, that's putting an awful lot of pressure on them. Refsnyder is not a starting outfielder. He's a bench outfielder. I think
No.
Refsnyder could get traded this offseason, honestly, like if they don't think they have room for him. Not this offseason, but it would be like a spring training thing of like, you know what, we really like Willie Abreu and we're going to go with it. But
Yeah.
I
mean,
can't see them going into the next season with that group.
No, I can't either. I think that you look to upgrade on right field is pretty much the clear spot. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing because Duvall's a free agent. Obviously, he makes a lot of sense to bring back.
Yeah.
But I don't think
it's-
I don't think there's room to bring back both him and Turner. So
Yeah.
it's kind of tricky in that regard with the outfield because I think ideally you would have Duran in center field. I would love to see Yoshida DH, but
Yeah.
you can't with Turner there. So that's why I think Duvall makes more sense to bring back than Turner in a weird way.
Mhm.
But like some combination of like a Duran, Duvall, Rafaela, Abreu, and player X, I could see. But I don't think you can go in with those two penciled in as starting outfielders.
Do you think it's quote unquote likely that they would trade Verdugo? I could see it happening. I don't know that I would call it likely.
Yeah. So I think it's what you have to decide is if you're not going to extend him, I think you have to seriously explore it.
Yeah. Oh, agreed.
I think that's the calculus is, you got to decide in this offseason, what is the future with him? Is he someone you want around for the next 4 or 5, 6 years? Or is he someone you're probably unlikely to re-sign? And if it's the latter, I think you look to trade him to see if you can get, a bullpen piece or something else, and then just go out and sign a outfielder on the free agent market.
Mm-hmm. Al asked another question. He says, if Justin Turner opts out at the end of the season, does he qualify for a qualifying offer? If so, should the Red Sox extend him one? If not, should the Red Sox let him walk and slide Yoshida over as the primary DH? We kind of got into that last piece. He cannot get a qualifying offer because he's already got one.
Yeah.
So no QO for Turner. I think Duvall can get a qualifying offer.
I don't think you would give him one though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. That's going to be another fascinating situation to see if they go ahead and do that. But anyway, yeah, that's the answer there. Our next question is from Dan, who asks, do you think the Red Sox would QO Duvall? He's, as of this email 5 days ago, currently at 1.9 B WAR through 71 games, which is 4.3 over 162 games. Well, that would be his best season since 2016. Hitter market is light this winter, and 1-year deals rarely blow up in your face if he accepts.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't think it's worth it because I don't think him on one. I'd rather use if I'm the Red Sox this offseason, I'm going big fish hunting. Like I'm targeting.
But
I don't want to.
It's also not a big free agent market.
No, but I don't want to tie up 20 million on Adam Duvall. Frankly, I would much rather use put that towards getting like 2 legit, top mid to better rotation starters.
I mean, to me, it's like you either bring him back or you don't. Right? Like,
yeah, but if you bring it back, you don't need to bring him back at 20 million. Like, what did he sign for last offseason? 10 million. He's not going to get that much more this season. So I don't think it's worth it. I think for me, the bigger question is, do they QO Paxton? I wouldn't. I'm leaning more towards not doing it, but I could see the argument for it too. So I think that's the bigger discussion point for me.
Agreed. Our next question comes from Ryan, who asks, just wondering why teams can no longer add 10 minor league players to expanded September rosters due to, quote, the integrity of the game, end quote, ... But it's fine for a team to cut 20% of its MLB roster despite continuing to play games with playoff implications for other teams. Thanks for the great podcast and all the reporting. Ryan is referring to the title of the email is LA Angels BS, but BS is spelled out. It's not a great look for the game. But that said, it's look, the Angels pushed in their chips and then it backfired spectacularly. And when you've got a situation where you've got a CBT threshold, like and you've got a trade deadline, then that's what happens. I
Yeah, I
don't have
mean,
a huge problem with it.
no, I don't either. And I'm frankly, it's interesting that no one ever thought about this last season with the Red Sox when like
Yeah,
they were
the Red
clearly
Sox
out of
should
it
have done this with
with
JD
JD
Martinez.
Martinez. Yeah.
They
So,
absolutely should have.
but I mean, obviously they didn't, and we saw what happened with the picks and everything this year. But I mean, if you're the Angels and Otani's going to walk, you can't just get a 4th-round pick. You got to at least get that 2nd-round pick. And I look at the Red Sox; it'd be a lot nicer if they had 2 2nd-round picks after this draft than the
Yeah.
2 fourths. So, yeah.
Although the funny thing, did you see that apparently the Angels did not get under the CBT?
No, they didn't, but they might have.
But then they might now because someone got hurt.
Well,
Oh no, it was
it's worse than that. You know what it is, right? So Max Stassi has some personal thing going on and has been out the whole season.
So they're putting him on like the restricted list or something.
But and they put him on the IL, so he was still getting paid all season. And now when they need the money to clear the CBT, they've moved him to something where he doesn't get paid anymore, so it doesn't count towards the CBT, which is
awesome.
I mean, on the one hand, good for them for paying him this much into the season for whatever's going on, but kind of a rough look that now they're like, actually, we need the money, so we're going to stop paying you.
Yeah, kind of garbage. Our next email is from @NewRoyalRooters, who says Noah Dean has really struggled to throw strikes this year, but he's also piling up the strikeouts. We've heard a lot about how the team tinkered with Shane Drohan and encouraged him to risk failure with the long-term aim of maximizing development. Do you think Dean might be going through that process? Are there others who might be in that experimentation process? I don't think it's an experimentation thing. I think he just has problem throwing strikes. But
yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I haven't seen him since spring training, and spring training, this stuff was interesting, but I think it's backed up a little bit in the season. I do wonder if they're working on some mechanical stuff. He's been a little better lately out of the bullpen.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thing is they moved him from the rotation into the bullpen. Like
3 out of his last 4 starts have been
he hasn't given
up any appearances. Excuse me. He hasn't given up any runs. Granted, mixed in there was a 6 walk, 5-run outing, but he's still walking like a bunch of guys, in his last 4 appearances out of the bullpen. It's 21 strikeouts and 16 walks. So not great. Yeah. But for him, I'd like to see him I would personally just let it fly in like a 1-2 inning bullpen role and see what happens, but we'll see what they want to do going forward with him.
Agreed. Our next question is from Rajiv, who asks, hi guys, I know the majority of fans have treated going over the tax line this offseason as a given. Do you guys believe that going over is truly a given, or is an approach similar to this year still very possible, if not likely? Which method would you guys personally prefer? Do you want to take that one first, or?
I mean, I think the whole reason you get under this season is so you can go over next season. The way that baseball is described, or the way the baseball rules kind of play right now, the most efficient route to spending is go over for 2. If you have ownership who's willing to spend, is go over for 2 seasons, then you go under for 1, then you go over for 2, and you go under for 1. And with the amount of money the Red Sox have coming off the books in the future, I think they are positioned well, and especially and I think this is why the high and bloom approach is necessary for the resetting the Red Sox, is with the development of the young players and the guys you anticipate coming through. You have those cheap, cost controlled players who are contributing at a level that allows you to spend big on other positions. And that was something that they lacked under Dave Dombrowski. It was all, big money free agents, trade acquisitions who you had to give big contracts to. They just didn't have that homegrown pipeline going. And that's what High and Bloom and the rest of the front office and development staff have been really working to reestablish. And now that we're seeing the fruits of that with, Brian Bayo, Tristan Casas, some of the relievers like Josh Winkowski, Garrett Whitlock, as more guys come through, Kyle Teal, Roman Anthony, maybe Nick York, Rafaela, et cetera, Willie Abreu, et cetera, it's going to free up more money to spend on those big ticket free agents. And I really am hopeful that in this offseason, that's something that they go out and do and address the rotation via that route.
Yeah. The only reason you go back under the CBT is you tried to sign a bunch of guys again who don't sign, and there's just no one left to spend the money on, and you're not going to go over by 1 million. Right. The point is, you go over, go over.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to go over, you go over by 10, 20, 30, 40 million. If you're 5 or less million,
maybe not 20 or 30, you got to be careful of, because now you've got new.
I don't remember exactly what the next level is, but yeah,
20 is the next one. 40 is the one where your pick gets moved.
Okay. So, you don't want that, but yeah. So I would hope that this offseason, we see them going after the top of the market when it becomes to like the 2 Japanese pitchers, Aaron
Yeah, get
Nola,
me Yamamoto. Like,
Yamamoto, even the
let's
lefty's
go.
pretty interesting. Like the
Yeah,
guy who I think John Morosi reported is getting posted this offseason.
yeah.
So yeah, go out and get those guys and let's see and see what the team looks like.
Our next question is from our friend John Berman, and he says, I love me some Rafael Devers, but how much do his defensive limitations factor into the Red Sox long-term plans? If the guy can't play much third base, does it impact the thinking on locking up Casas long-term? Bonus question is, who in the Red Sox system other than Devers is most likely to be starting at third in 3 years? So let's take the first part first. I'm not, so look, Devers' defense this year has been a problem. Obviously.
Yeah, it's been bad. It's been bad. There's no
You
sugarcoating it.
made a
He's
great
regressed defensively.
Yes, you made a great point that having no stability to his left probably factors into some degree. I agree with that.
I think that does. I also think that he needs to take better care of his body and
Yep.
make sure that he's more agile and kind of ready to go. And I do think there's also like if you see a lot of his errors are focus related. It's
Yeah.
not like
It's not like he
just
has bad
it's almost
hands.
mental.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if there's some like he gets down on himself. I don't know this. I'm just like speculating, but like he,
Snowballs.
it snowballs after one bad play.
Mhm.
And I think though that John's right that figuring out what Devers that's the most important thing for them when it comes to him is figuring out, do you think he can get better at third base? Because if you think that what he did this year is what he's going to be going forward, you have to start considering moving it into DH or
Yep.
to first base, I think, or playing him less at third base.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think that he can get back to like a little bit better, kind of what he was previous seasons where he's more like neutral, fine. He can be a neutral third baseman with his offensive ability.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be a Gold Glover.
No. So yeah, that's going to be it's a very important question for the Red Sox going forward.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, the impact on locking up Casas, because I think the idea being you don't want to tie down first base. Well, you just DH him if you need to.
Between first base and DH and third base, two of those spots are going to be those guys. You hope for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Bonus question: who in the Red Sox system other than Devers is most likely to be starting at third in 3 years? I think I've got an answer in mind. What do you think?
I mean, if you had to ask me if someone currently in the system,
yes. And by system, I'm taking it as organization.
Marcelo Meyer, probably.
I was going to say either Meyer or Trevor Story.
Yeah, I don't think Story has the arm for third, though.
I don't either, but it's like if he's playing defense well enough that they don't want to put him at second, I don't know. Or like, let's say they've got Reyes or someone.
Meyer has plenty of arms, so if they wanted to,
maybe it's Meyer then. Yeah, that
because it is going to be interesting, and it's something we'll have to it'll be more of a discussion point next season. But like at some point, if they're going to have to figure out what they're doing with Story, is he sticking at shortstop? Are you going to move him back to second? Like, what does he want to do? And that does have a direct impact on Marcelo Meyer and Ceddanne Rafael a little bit too. So
yeah, maybe it's Rafaela. Who knows? Next question is from Tyler, who says the Red Sox are not playing Ceddanne Rafaela very much since he was called up and kept up even after early reports that he might get sent back down. I understand the Sox are still, quote, in it, end quote, technically, but realistically, it seems to make sense to see what he can do at the big league level. Am I overthinking this to think the team is not very high on him and hope to use him in a trade this coming off season? So they called him up to show other teams they rate him, but not overexpose him and his flaws at the major league level. Or is this just not wanting to throw him into the deep end? I personally think his value as a trade piece might be higher than his actual on-field impact for a pro club. Interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks. A few things here. I know we talked about the general concept already, Ian, but two things I wanted to unpack here. First of all, calling a guy up and not playing him is not showcasing him for a trade.
No.
So that's not really how I would read the situation at all. Also, this concept that a guy is worth more than in a trade than his actual on-field impact for a pro club. The implication there is like other teams haven't done a good job scouting him.
Yeah, teams know what Rafael is.
It never works out that way.
No.
Like teams know about the aggressiveness. Like they're never mind the fact that there have literally been multiple articles about this. Teams know this is not. We're not looking at something that teams aren't looking at.
Well, and I think the idea of showcasing it, like on paper, it makes sense, but in reality, it just doesn't really work that way. I think like Bobby Dahlbeck is a great example of that.
Yeah,
like he's been in AAA, killing the ball for the most part of the season. Granted, he had a really rough patch, but And it's not changed the fact that still no team is interested in trading for him or giving up what the Red Sox, deem him what they would want for him. And then he didn't even get called up for September. Like, it's pretty telling. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the premise there with Rafael.
Yeah.
I think they like him a lot, and I think they just don't want to rush him and put him in a role where he's not set up for success.
Yep, exactly. Our next email is from Tim, who says, while every MILB/deaf player's dream is to make the show, many realize that will never happen and play long after that dream is effectively gone. I was curious if you knew what happens to foreign MILB players after they stop playing. Are they allowed to remain in the U.S. after retiring? Does their length in the U.S. matter? Is it case by case? Certainly there are some players who stick around and play indie ball a lot, go back home and play winter ball or other, playing leagues back home. I mean, part of it is just like citizenship, immigration type status stuff.
Yeah. Some of them go back and become scouts for the Red Sox, like Dennis Dubin that we were talking about earlier.
Right. Yeah.
Or become coaches. Like, a lot of them stay around the game. Some of them don't. Some of them go back.
If you stay in the game as a coach, then the team can get you a visa, right? Like that. Like, I mean, look at plenty of foreign players, quote unquote.
Was it Neil Rowdis, who's now like a cow farmer or something?
No.
Who am I thinking of?
Oh, it wasn't.
You know what I'm talking about? It wasn't.
It was
Rowdis.
the guy that just like left.
It was, but my point is just like some of them go home and do their own thing. Like,
yeah.
I know it was not him. It was a right-handed pitcher that they signed from the Dominican or Venezuelan. I can't remember his name.
This is going to bother me so much.
I'll look while you go to the next question. I'll look it up. I'll see if I can figure it out.
Yeah,
it's a right-handed pitcher. I know that for a fact.
Why he played for Lowell.
I think he got like a decent bonus too.
Yeah, he got a half decent bonus. It wasn't like a 7-figure bonus.
No, but it was like a couple $100,000.
Yeah. Oh, why can I not think? Anyway, all right. And our next and final question comes from Luis, and this is kind of an interesting one, Ian.
Okay.
Luis says, "Okay, did you find it?"
No, I'm still looking.
Okay. He says, I was listening to a recent Effectively Wild episode that featured Eric Longenhagen talking about the recently promoted top prospects across the league. When speaking about Rafaela, and he gives the timestamp, he questioned whether his apparently improved plate discipline was real. He also said that he may have been told to, quote, just stand there, end quote. And he said that the Sox are, quote, definitely one of those teams, end quote, whose coaches tell players to do that, mentioning Roman Anthony too. Do you agree? And what have you guys heard about this? I don't know what Eric said. I don't know what Eric heard. I'm not going to address any of that.
No.
That said, I don't think anyone has said Ceddanne Rafaela's plate discipline has improved is the first thing.
Yeah, that I don't agree with that.
That's wrong.
So I think at the beginning of the season, he was definitely taking more pitches, and I don't necessarily disagree that it wasn't for the sake of it. Like, I don't think they were meaningful takes. I think he was supposed to take pitches like early in the season.
They asked him to take more pitches. I mean, this has been reported. They asked him to try and take more pitches. It wasn't working, and he said, bad. Screw it.
And then he's gone back to what he's doing. So I don't think I would disagree with with his statement that suggestion that like his plate discipline has improved. I think it's the same. It was like we've talked about it. His chase rate is the exact same it was in AA as it was in AAA. His overall numbers were better because he was making more contact in the zone, but that's nothing to do with like an improved approach on pitches outside of the zone or swing decisions. That's just hitting the ball hard when you can.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't.
Roman Anthony, is a different animal. Like he's not a guy that's just being. I mean, he can get passive. It seems like, but
I think he was passive. I don't think he was told to do that. I think that's just kind of what he was, and it's why they promoted him because they wanted him to be more aggressive. They wanted him to see more pitches in the zone, so he was more willing to swing.
Yeah, that's why they got him out of Salem, 100%. Like,
was it?
And this is our conjecture. This isn't what we heard, but like
correct. Was it Kevin Harris? Was it that who it was? No. All right, I'm still looking. Give me a second.
Now this is gonna be fantastic audio while we.
I thought it was Harris, but
Oh, Harris, Kevin Harris.
Yeah,
yes.
Was it him? I thought it was him.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
yeah, it was Keiva.
Yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I just kind of.
Yeah, Harris, Heras. Yes.
Yeah.
You said like Harris. I'm like, no, it's an international guy.
Yeah, sorry. I thought it was him, but he was the only name that stood out when I was going through, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's him. But yeah. Because he's back he's like a cow farmer in Venezuela or something.
Good pull. Yeah, he just kind of like didn't show up for something or something. They were like, yeah, he's back home and they don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good pull. I'm impressed. Yeah, I think that's exactly who it was.
I'm
All right,
almost
cool.
positive that was him.
Well, thank you all for your emails. Again, podcast@soxprospects.com. Hit us up because we're going to talk about what you all want to hear about. And with that, Ian, I think we will wrap it up. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to the Ludlow Thieves for our intro and outro music, All the Money. Thank you to everyone who emailed us at podcast@soxprospects.com. Thank you to everyone who follows us on X and Instagram and other social media. You can follow the website at Sox Prospects. You can follow Ian at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. And you can follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. If you want to support us on patreon.com/Sox Prospects, we would really appreciate that. And as always, we want to give a shout out to our next set of $5 level Patreon supporters. That list includes Ernest Shermer, Kyle C., Tyler Woodrow, Patton NH, Jeff Trainer, David R. Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, James O'Hara, and Nathan Kenyon. Thank you all for your support. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back at you maybe next week, Ian. We got rankings we're going to talk about. We're going to try and do one next week. If not, it'll certainly be the week after. So we will be back at you soon. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy September.